All right, we got to have a chat about Crimson Desert, an upcoming action-adventure game by Pearly Abyss that's launching on March 19th for PC as well as consoles. And this game is getting a ton of hype right now, overwhelmingly positive hype, which is a good thing. It's good when people are excited and happy, and if the game pulls through, then we'll continue to be excited and happy. Do note that there's not going to be a ton of editing in this video. I'm just kind of doing this off the cuff, no script or anything. Having shoulder problems right now, which is making it hard to use my mouse, so I'm taking a few days off from that. So just going to let some Crimson Desert gameplay play out in the background. But I wanted to talk about this game. I'm not going to tell you all the game's features and all the details and all that stuff, as there's already a million videos that do that. But there's a few things that I did want to talk about. Now, I do want to preface here by stating that I was invited to a hands-on event. Some of you guys will be watching this video probably while I'm at the hands-on event. I can't really give too many details on the event and all that stuff, but know that I will be playing the game for a bit, and I'll be able to drop some sort of video whenever Pearly Abyss decides to lift embargo. So if you guys want to hear my thoughts on this game after playing for however long they let us play for, I will have a video coming out about that, hopefully in the near future. Obviously, it'll be before the game comes out. As far as reviews go, I have no idea what Pearly Abyss is doing, if they're giving them out, when they're giving them out, how many people they're giving them out to, how early they're giving them out. I have no idea. So this is strictly going to be an initial impressions video, and if I do end up getting a review, if they end up doing that, and I get one, of course, I will drop a review, as long as I liked the hands-on experience, and then I'll cover the game, extensively with guides and all that good stuff. Now, I'm actually really interested in this game. Initially, I didn't really know what to think, but as I watched more and more footage, the footage looks really good. I like how the gameplay looks. There's so many different things you can do, and everything they've shown us, at least the way it's presented, it looks like it's pretty high quality. Now, of course, I have my concerns. Is the open world, of course, just going to be mostly empty? Is it going to be even fun, going around and doing the million different things that you can do? Are they all going to feel kind of soulless? These are legit questions to have. But at the end of the day, the more and more that I've watched on this game, the more excited I find myself becoming. And I'm actually a little bit surprised that I'm getting excited, because I'm traditionally an RPG player, and Pearly Abyss isn't even labeling this game as an RPG themselves. So initially, when I heard about this, well, actually, that was many years ago when the game was actually planned to be an MMO. I don't know, like a half MMO. I don't know what it was. Way back in the day, it was a very different game. But when I heard it was an action adventure, when they finally made that choice, of course, as an RPG lover, I play mostly RPGs, my interest wasn't really that high. Not that I don't like action adventures, but I really just love RPGs like many of you guys do. But because Pearly Abyss didn't label it as an RPG, that actually ended up making me interested as time went on, because if they did label it as an RPG, I would be looking at the footage and expecting to see a lot of RPG specific mechanics and systems, which would lead to feelings of like, oh, this is not an RPG. Like, these are very light RPG systems. It doesn't look like there's a lot of dialogue, narrative choice, level progression, and stuff like that. Because they labeled it as an action adventure, my interest pulled back a little bit. But then as I watched new previews come out in the game, gameplay demonstrations, features, overviews, I went into those videos not expecting an RPG. And the more I watched them, I set my expectations accordingly and started actually becoming genuinely excited to play an action adventure. I really appreciate that Pearly Abyss doesn't use the RPG tag like so many studios do these days. They just throw it on because they know it's going to attract more interest, or they think it's going to. Pearly Abyss is labeling it as an action adventure. A lot of the devs say that themselves. And to me, that inspires confidence in their product. They know what they created, and they're not going to try to be, deceptive or misleading with what it actually is. And as an RPG fan, that actually made me more interested in this, game that's not really an RPG. It's an action adventure. Now, of course, there's going to be RPG elements, and some people out there might call it an action RPG. But if you're in the know for how the genres work, action adventures are different from RPGs, even though you do play a role, of course, in action adventures. And sometimes there are some light RPG mechanics in action adventure games. But this game is more akin to, I would assume, like Zelda, Breath of the Wild, games that are not very heavy on narrative choices or level progression systems and stuff like that. Coming into this game with my expectations, shifted hopefully in the right area, expecting an action adventure is allowing me to, to get excited because I do like action adventures. I just don't like when I play games that I think are going to be RPGs that turn into action adventures, because then I go in expecting a deeper RPG experience and I don't get that. So I'm really happy that the devs are saying action adventure, and I think it's actually going to possibly lead to some more excitement out of people that typically only play RPGs. It's going to allow them to know what they're looking at and not expect things, and then maybe give the game a chance with a different mindset going in. Any of you guys that have watched my channel for a while, we know that a lot of the open world action adventure games that I give a try don't end up clicking for me. And it's not because I don't like, an action game or an action adventure type game. It's usually because a lot of these games just tend to be low quality and soulless. And for some reason with this game, I'm not getting that vibe just yet, although there's no way to know for certain. But from the footage we've seen, I see a lot of high quality aspects. For example, Assassin's Creed, I've never really latched on with any of the recent Assassin's Creeds. They just feel soulless to me, and on top of that, they also just feel low quality. The combat's really nothing special in either or any of the recent Assassin's Creed games. But for Crimson Desert, like a lot of these aspects like combat look like they're really good and exciting. So if you're going to do an action adventure and not give players a ton of depth with RPG systems and mechanics, the way to do it is to make those other aspects really high quality and exceptional, such as combat being very, very good. There's so many RPGs out there that I love where the combat is lackluster, but it's not a big deal because in an RPG, the combat isn't necessarily as important because you have all these other RPG systems and mechanics. With an action adventure, where the devs aren't spending as much time trying to figure out complex RPG systems, I expect them to spend more time on making other aspects of the game more fun, like combat. And it looks really good in Crimson Desert. The world looks beautiful. There's a lot of cool things that you can do. The puzzle aspect looks really fun. I like how they have the gray main camp that you go to and that you build up a little bit. The mounted combat, especially on the bear, looks really cool. Flying on the dragon. There's a lot of really cool things that this game has advertised so far, but we won't know until we know. So one of the reasons why I'm making this video is because I have a lot of RPG fans, obviously. Not me, I'm saying a lot of people that are fans of the genre. I don't really have that many fans. A lot of you guys just use and abuse me. But set your expectations accordingly. Don't go into this expecting, a bunch of different dialogue choices, control over the narrative. Don't go into this expecting a ton of different level progression systems like controlling attributes and skill. They might have some sort of skill tree, but there's no actual leveling in this game from what I understand. So your character is not going to have a numerical level. More so, you get better gear, you find better weapons, you end up obtaining more skills, which you can get from killing certain bosses or finding artifacts through the puzzles and stuff like that. So it's a lot different than a lot of the RPG progression systems that a lot of us experience. So just understand that. Some of you guys might not be interested in hearing that, and fair enough. But if you're like me, you don't not like action adventure games. You just tend to find that more often than not, they tend to be subpar or mediocre. And that's usually not good enough for you to invest your time into those games. My hopes are for this one is that it's going to be exceptional in some areas, or at least good in some areas, and that we could have potentially a really fun open world, just action game here, a game where I don't have to be thinking all the time like I do in an RPG about all the numbers and all that. A game where I can just have fun, have some pure action fun, and just do some crazy fun things. And that actually sounds quite appealing to me right now, and I'm actually excited that I'm interested in this one, and that I'll also get to experience it a little bit early so I can provide my thoughts to you guys. I think it'll be a little bit valuable having somebody who is mostly an RPG player, who's given up a lot on the action adventure genre, come into this game and play it and then be able to give, my opinion on it. Outside of the genre classification here, which I appreciate, another thing that I like is that the game will not be launching with a microtransaction store, although there are pre-order bonuses, so it's possible, I guess, that you could buy those pre-order bonuses, but there's going to be no shop that you can go in to buy extra stuff or cosmetics or quality of life things or anything like that, at the very least on the game's launch. And because this is a single player action adventure game, not having a cash shop like that on launch, that's like the purest version of the game. That's the base form of the game, and that's when most people are going to play it. So if they do something down the line, I probably won't even be playing the game by that time. I won't even care. But I'm really happy to hear that, because if there was a single player game out there that you could throw some cash shop items into outside of the pre-order bonuses, this would probably be the perfect candidate, especially considering that, you know, Pearly Abyss has made MMOs before, and they still currently run one, Black Desert Online. And this game was actually initially planned to be an MMO. So they completely changed the direction of not only just the game itself, because it's no longer an MMO, it's a single player action adventure. It's not multiplayer anymore. This also changes the whole monetization method. And they didn't actually decide to, you know, bring what they most likely would have had with their MMO, which is a cash shop, over into the single player action adventure game. And I think that deserves some praise. I know we shouldn't be praising for things that should just happen on their own, but it's just something I didn't expect, and it inspires confidence in their product from an outside perspective. So excited to see that. Now, one concern that you might have when you hear me say that the game was initially planned to be an MMO or have MMO elements or something along those lines is that, is this game going to be good as a single player game now, or did it focus too much on being an MMO at first and now they're going to try to make a single player game out of it, but it's just going to be soulless fetch quest slop like many MMOs would be if they were single player? Well, I don't know. Of course, it could still be that, but they made this change, if I remember correctly, back in 2020. I actually made a dedicated video on this game like 4 or 5 years ago, and they actually moved off of being an MMO all the way back, I think at least 5 years ago. It might even be longer than that. So they've had plenty of time now to really focus in on this game being a single player action adventure game, like an entire game development cycle here to do that. And because we've seen in the gameplay so far that what they've shown does look higher quality than what you would experience in an MMO, such as the combat system and just a few different things, I think, I hope that they've had enough time to really focus in on that vision. And I'm currently, you know, of course, it's something to think about, but it's not like a huge worry in my head at the moment. And to end the video, I just want to quickly talk about Access Media, because I'm part of that, and I've been part of it many times in my YouTube career. I've been to many events, etc. I've gotten review codes quite a lot. I am part of that. Now, with that said, I've always had the firm belief that as long as I am respectful and I provide constructive criticism versus, you know, tearing people down, etc., good things will continue to come my way. And companies that have their heads on straight, companies that are actually good and have good employees working for them, good devs, etc., are not going to be fearful of somebody like me. So I don't feel like I have to put out positive videos when I get review codes or when I go to some hands-on event. I don't feel any pull or any need to do that in hopes that other studios are going to see that, oh, this guy likes everything that comes out. He's always gonna do what gives him the best chance of getting invited to events. I don't care about that. And I don't care about that because the companies that are afraid of somebody like me typically make bad games. And guess what? I don't like to play bad games, nor do I like to cover them. Even with Crimson Desert in particular, if I end up not enjoying the hands-on impressions, and I state that publicly, of course, I would do it in a constructive criticism type of way, as long as the studio seems like they are respectful to us content creators. When studios start doing shady, weird stuff, which I've called out before, I have no problem getting a little bit more negative, I guess you could say. But if something's just not for me, it's not clicking with me, and the studio has been respectful and they're not being deceptive to everybody, like I'll give constructive criticism, and I'll just say something's not for me versus just tearing it down endlessly, making the devs feel like crap. I'm not going to do all that stuff. It's not in my nature. It's not the type of person that I am. At the end of the day, though, you know, whether somebody's overly negative and rude or if they are giving constructive criticism and stating their opinion, at the end of the day, both opinions arrive at, I didn't like the game. So that's the most important thing that I get across to you guys, and how I choose to word it, etc., you know, is going to be up to me. And I just tend to try to be respectful to people I think that at least deserve respect. And if I don't like something, I typically like to just move on from it versus just dwelling on it. And lastly, on this topic, you know, the whole going to the event, etc., sure, it's fun. I guess. I mean, it is fun. It is fun, but like it's a lot of time traveling. I usually have to go across the country to go to these events, or maybe even across a big ocean. And it's a lot of travel time, and it's typically just one day of stuff with limited time. And at the end of the day, I don't know, man, I've traveled a lot of places in my life, and it can get old too. And you're also not making any money or working while you're gone. At least I'm not. Just long travel days. I know it's hard when you don't come from my perspective. If you're somebody that's always wanted to do content for a dream, I can understand why it'd be hard to latch on to what I'm saying here or understand. But going to events isn't always the greatest thing in the world. And I've turned down a lot of events before because it's just too much of a time sink. And like I said, you're giving up work time too, unless you're fully convinced that the game that you're going to play is going to be really great for your channel, which a lot of the times I'm not always convinced of that. But as far as, going to the event and meeting the developers and stuff and being in that happy-go-lucky environment, I recognize that, and sure, feelings can pull on me, but when I get home and sit down in my studio, it's game time. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is that I take care of my audience. You guys are what made me what I am today. You guys are what I will be in the future. Without you guys, I can't exist. Without a single company or something like that, it's not that big of a deal. So I've been very good at analyzing how I feel and being able to pull back any emotions that I feel like are pulling away from me giving a truthful opinion. But I can only speak for myself. I'll do another video in the future where I get much more into the emotions and the incentives that can come with stuff like this. My advice to you guys is just continue to follow the creators that you have grown a level of trust with, that you understand their perspective, and you should be good to go. Access journalism does exist. Can't trust everything that you read out there, but find the ones that you like and that have a good track record with you, or at the very least you understand where they come from, and then you can, take things a little bit more seriously. Hope that makes sense to you guys. Like I said, I might do a dedicated video on this topic in the near future and actually write a script out so I can articulate things a little bit better. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will have some hands-on thoughts at some point on Crimson Desert, and hopefully I enjoy it and end up putting out a ton of content on this game. Exciting times. Catch y'all in the next one.